All right, everybody. So we're here with Demetrio Rico with Stafi. Stafi is an outsourcing agency for employment. They staff international workers for law firms all over the U.S. We've known him for a few years. It's been a great thing. Recently got reconnected with the ALA conference. Demetrio, why don't you tell us a bit about your business? We'll go from there.
Sure. So Staffy started with the idea of helping small, medium, and large law firms spend time on what matters to them. And we do that in a very practical way by providing talented staff. We do it three ways: providing talented staff from Latin America that is coached by us and is trained by us so that we can control the quality and the quantity of their work. So that's service number one. Service number two is to provide intake and reception service with a real vision of closing the deals for the law firm. It's not just answering the phone, it's making sure that we're providing value and creating new customers for that law firm. And we do that 24/7, of course. And we do that for all sorts of law firms. I would say personal injury and immigration are our two largest markets in that, but we handle all kinds of law, but only law. And then our third service is outsourcing. So this is something that we started maybe 6 or 7 months ago, and we're doing incredibly good, and we're growing very nicely because it's a non-committed service. So basically, 4th of July weekend's coming up right now. People are busy. They want to spend time with their family. Give us your inflow. You don't have to spend every night working on cases. You don't have to spend every weekend. You want to enjoy the summer. Give us cases now. Don't give us cases next week. It doesn't matter. So now what we've seen is that the quality of our service is incredible. Our speed is really good. And really the hardest part is not the legal work. It's the collecting the data from the end user, collecting the documents, having to fill out the form. So all of that, there's a huge burden that we're taking off the law firm. Those are our three services.
And that's really important. I think that's why a lot of law firms don't grow, is because they don't know how to sustain all the administrative work. And then also, how do you sustain all the administrative work, balancing it with things that have very high learning curves too? That's one thing we've noticed working with firms is once they start hiring people, they kind of realize how much they know and how much information they have to give out. But that's why services like Staffy come in. We used to do more of that outsourced model, and it was really difficult. And we got up to about 20 people. It was hard coordinating everything. But you built an actual platform, right? Like clients that work with you, they have to log in, they get to see all these different things.
And interestingly enough, as we now are embedding AI into what we build, it's built in a very similar architecture as AI in the sense that we first talk to our client. We get very specific about what are the things you need us to do for you. And so we've developed over 100 tasks that someone does, and they kind of fall in different areas. There are people-facing tasks, or administrative tasks, or the technical legal tasks. And so understanding what the person wants. A lot of times we have these conversations with people that aren't ready to hire, but they have a good vision of what their next hire is going to look like. So it's like we help them build what that job is going to be in the future. So now what we did is that task is a concept of SOPs and manuals. Attached to that task is a concept of training procedures. So for every task, let's say intake, let's say, okay, we want this person, among other 7 things, we want them to do intake. So we have a training on empathy. We have a training on overcoming objections. We have a training on how to deal with irate customers. All of these things are associated to that task. And that is how we know if that person is capable of doing that task to begin with. But then it doesn't end there. We have a coach that is an intake coach that is listening to those calls and checking for quantity, like are they doing the right number of calls? And are they performing on those calls? Are they closing the deals? Is there good customer satisfaction? We're not just a staffing company. It's almost like an operational arm to the law firm. We happen to have a person doing the work, but we have subject matter experts that they can escalate to that are, mentoring them, but also monitoring them.
Yeah, and I think it's good for the worker too. I mean, obviously in our work, we work with a lot of people that work for staffing agencies through the firms. And a lot of them are just kind of alone out there. Like they just kind of have this company that runs payroll, just mostly an accounting firm that processes the payments. I think you guys have done good at actually, one, like providing more than just money to people that work there. And two, actually giving people like feeling like they're a part of something. Like it's a whole group effort. It's not kind of like me against the staffing company and working with the client, this whole triangle. I think you've done a good job actually creating this whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and we developed it that way. It's interesting you notice that, Ian. There's two sides, right? Like so we have the client advocate, which is client success. And these are business leaders, have worked at large law firms and have operated and are giving advice to, we're not a consulting company, but we want to make sure that they're getting the most value. But sometimes getting the most value comes from the law firm owner not asking for them to do something because they don't trust them, or they feel like nobody can do it as good as they can, all the regular things that we find in the space. And so we have that side, but then we also have the advocate of the representative. We understand it's a career for them. We understand that we want them to grow. And sometimes it comes a point 2, 3 years into a relationship. They say, look, I don't want to work for this law firm anymore. Like, I've learned everything I've learned to learn. I want to go somewhere else. And they stay with us, but now we're looking for the next opportunity for them. So it's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, one thing maybe a lot of American business owners don't realize is it's like the job market in some of these countries is so restricted. Some of the labor laws are very restricted to business owners, they're very restricted to people. So when they can get a good agency that can expand those opportunities, yeah, it's a really good thing for them. That's why so many people want to work online, because the currency is unstable in other countries. A lot of call center jobs are very cyclical. You don't know how long they're going to last. A staffing agency, most law firms, if someone's doing a good job, they're not just going to up and let it go. And then for an attorney that's kind of like wanting to integrate remote staff, that's because like someone that just signed up with this yesterday, we were talking to him about this, where a few years ago, they hired a few remote staff members and they were skilled people. They had immigration experience. They just didn't have a structure for it. They were spending more time training them than they were actually doing the work to get done and those things. So for those people that maybe want to do this, but they know that they're not quite organized enough for it, which you'd kind of alluded to earlier, where should someone start to actually put their systems together in order to be ready to benefit from having internet people?
I think when we have our initial call with a potential client, I try to understand their systems, try to understand what they're trying to do, right? Because we have some solo entrepreneurs that don't want to grow. They want to stay solo. Their plan is not to have a multinational law firm. They just want to continue working what they're doing, and they want to just take some load off. And so that's one kind of client. And having these 3 services, whether it's intake or outsourcing or dedicated staff, might or not make sense for that. But there's other ones that want to grow. And those are the ones that need to really have a structure in place. And by us having this concept of working at the task level and us having these SOPs, it's in our contract. They have to build SOPs. That allows the law firm to scale, because as the roles change, as new responsibilities are taken over, as new people get hired, the SOPs for these tasks are there. So having the SOPs, having the additional training that they can go back to. So having this whole concept of escalating, recognizing that something is broken, and then having people to fix it internally, and not having that person feel like they're on their own. We have clients that they think that a remote staff is like AI. They just send them work and they're supposed to do the work and give it back. And they're not. They're people, and they need a certain level of communication. It's hard to be remote for some people. And we measure those things too when we test them. We kind of give that HR support to the representative if the law firm doesn't. But for sure, the law firm that does is the more successful one. Whether they hire direct, or they hire through us, it's important to make that person feel like part of the company.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the systems are important. And that's kind of the thing, though, kind of to your point, is like a lot of people hire VAs just thinking they're going to have these robotic roles that just kind of, you put something in and something else comes out. But the more you build them into the team, make them feel like they're a part of something, that's a big part of it. Because that's the thing, though. I mean, you never know what work history they're coming from and all that. Then the sad reality is, in Latin America and a lot of other parts of the world, knowing English is a more lucrative skill than having a degree. I used to work with a call center in Nicaragua, and there were doctors working there that they might make, $700 a month at the call center, or 600 or whatever, but they're making 300 at the hospital where they're doing very skilled work. So also the amount of people that are available in these countries to work for you that are highly educated, high skilled, very proficient is really high.
But those same people, because they've never worked for US companies before or have limited experience, don't know how to interact. And so that's where, because at the end of the day, a couple $100 more, a couple $100 less is not really the importance. The importance is to get value out of that person, right? Yeah. The legal work that a law firm does is valuable. It's not inexpensive. And so what we need to do is have the best people. And so you talk about prior experience and things like that. The people that we hire go through multiple psychological assessments. We understand how assertive they are, how impatient they are, how much can they execute, who they are at work, who they are not at work. How hard is it to change? These are all things that we're considering for the role. Tomorrow, you go and send somebody a wonderful person. They're charismatic. They're good looking. I'm like, oh, I like this guy. I'm going to hire this guy. Well, this guy doesn't execute. This guy's all talk. And that's what we don't do. So we make sure that those people don't get hired. We don't hire who we like. We hire who we know is going to do good for the job. And if we see things that we're concerned about, it's okay. We know that in advance, and we tell our client that in advance, and we're monitoring to make sure that person's going to deliver on the promise.
Yeah. Like that personality match is really important. But how do you find that good personality match? Because I think a lot of people, they know what they're looking for. Like, hey, I want someone friendly that gets work done and that kind of thing. But you realize that, all right, this lawyer's in court a lot of the day. Or like when they do things, they like expect it right away. But that's only 20% of the time or whatever that is. So, well, you alluded to that, but how would actually someone or hire an agency or hire for themselves to actually find a good personality fit for their firm when staffing remotely? Because obviously when you're on a video call like this, it's easy just to be on your best behavior, but eventually that's going to show.
Yeah. We have the person that they're going to be working for take the test as well. So if you find someone that, as an example, and most lawyers kind of fit some of these profiles sometimes, where 80% of humanity is kind of in this, on the show, let's just talk about social interactions, where, you have a certain level of social, not just abilities, but desire. And are you someone that can be by yourself for hours on end without having other people around?
Absolutely. Yeah. I enjoy other people, but solitude's totally a comfortable place.
Totally fine. Yeah. So I'm saying Denise is also like that. I'm like that too. A person like that, if you put him in a client-facing role, he can execute it. You can do it. And like if we had you take the assessment, we would see someone that sits to the left of the line, but if needed for work, you're able to push yourself. You're able to go to a trade show, talk to strangers. Now, if you had to do that every day, how much does that drain you?
Well, I wouldn't say it drained me. I definitely would just need to balance it out with other things. But I get what you're saying, where there's like people have a natural propensity to excel in something.
Yeah. And so some of the tests that we have people go through allow us to kind of see, okay, how much can Ian do this? Yeah, but can you do that all day long? No. So he should not just do intake. Ian's multifaceted. He can do multiple things. We need to put Ian in a role where he has some operational responsibilities, some administration responsibilities, and some technical ones. So that is how we try to fit the person with the role, and then try to understand the client. If the client is very, very impatient, which we see a lot in law firms, we know that we can't put a very, very patient person, because patience is also associated with pace. So someone that's very patient is someone who's also very slow, and how you can't put those kind of opposites together. Like some opposites work nicely and some opposites are like a recipe for failure. So yeah, we try to get the client to also take the assessment to try to understand them better.
Oh, that's a good idea. We've done a lot of personality assessments with people we've helped staff. I never thought of doing it with the client. That's a good way to actually kind of match them up. Something I've noticed is not everybody that looks good on the interview is going to be the best worker. One of the best salespeople I ever worked with is a very thick accented guy, and he had a good vibe about him. That wasn't a problem. But he would sign up EB1 cases, like a few a day for a firm sometimes. And another great salesperson we helped hire for a firm in Massachusetts, she had very kind of like, just kind of sweet, kind of nice girl, kind of attitude, kind of that sweet hometown girl vibe. But she used to work at a real estate office and would just have to politely call people and tell them to pay their bills. And she started working at a law firm, which is obviously a bit less of a tense environment than people that haven't paid their rent. But she did amazing at that. I mean, she was great at collecting documents because she was already doing that with the leasing office and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of potential out there. I think that's kind of the point with those tests and everything. And then I guess overall, when someone is working with you, I mean, because after a while, you're going to get used to just having this person around. That's one of the things there. How do you keep the person hungry as time goes on? I think everybody's had that experience. I certainly have. Where you hire somebody, they have a sprint where they do great, but there's a point where they maybe get a little complacent or used to the position. And that's where staffing agencies come in. They monitor them. Maybe they talk to them about stuff going on in their personal life, make sure it doesn't interfere with their work. How are you actually putting together the structure for that to make sure that they're producing for a long time? Because you've had clients for forever. We've had actual clients before. I mean, the fact that you can keep someone on for 3 or 4 years consistently really says a lot about the service.
Absolutely. I think it has to do when we develop this subject matter expert of coaches, and we also have psychologists in the team. So let's say that I'm doing paralegal work and I'm in an immigration law firm. I have a paralegal with years of experience in immigration as my coach. But let's say that my law firm client also wants me to do intake. So I have a second coach that also has years of experience doing intake for law firms. So there are two people that this person can reach out to, but we're proactively reaching out to them. So we have each one of our coaches has 6, 7 phone calls with our reps to make sure that things are going well. Obviously, if there's escalations, there's known issues, we're going to reach to those people first. But it is part of our procedure to make sure that we talk to everybody and keep them engaged. Like, how are you feeling with your customer? Sometimes the escalation is backwards. Sometimes the escalation comes from our coaching. My lawyer has stopped talking to me. He just sends me work and doesn't talk to me anymore. And now we escalate to client success, and client success has a conversation with the lawyer and says, hey, Josie is a little sad that you're not talking to her anymore. I know you're busy and I know, but you have a team call every day, right? Can we add her to your team call? Can we make her feel more part of the company? So we're constantly measuring the quality of the relationship to make sure that it's good. But also understanding that sometimes we've had people switch jobs where they say, okay, I have 2 law firms with 2 great people, and both of them said, hey, I want to work for somebody else. There's nothing wrong. I'm bored, like just want to switch. And we've switched companies. So one's gone to work for one, the other one's going to work for the other one. And it's cool. And in both cases, I feel the law firm now a more rounded person with another perspective and different work style. And it's worked out. It's been very nice.
Yeah. And you didn't directly say this, but that's one of the biggest benefits of having a company like yours is how quickly you can rotate people in if it's a good fit. Even if someone needs to take a week off, you have a replacement there. Because I think a lot of people that pay the staffing agencies, they just kind of get used to paying this agency. They maybe don't get the most out of it. But for the most part, all the staffing agencies I know that actually stick it out for a while, there's a lot more help that they can provide clients that clients don't even think of. They're just kind of thinking, hey, I need them to run payroll and that's that. But there's obviously so much more. And especially for companies like yours that have built a platform that specializes in an industry, that understand how things work in there and have a personal passion for it. It's a big thing. If someone wanted to reach out to you, what would be a good way for them to get a hold of Stafi and get more information?
The best way is go straight to our website, book a meeting with one of our HR experts. They're only 30 minutes. And I feel like there's no pressure. They're not salespeople. It's really about who your next hire is going to be. You're going to get access to the platform unlimited. So you can go in there and play around with a different task and see what that looks like for you. I think that's probably the easiest way. And you can always email me directly. All our contact information is on our site. Would love to have conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Stafi has a great reputation. It's like in what I do, like the whole consulting role, we're obviously going and finding, hey, who's your staff and what you pay them, like what's the unique value this person brings. That's a lot of what our company does is restructuring their workflow, which might be dividing onboarding clients and doing customer service or paralegal work, which sometimes involves reallocating skills. But for the most part, all the people that work with Stafi, I haven't really had any complaints with them. We work with a lot of these staffing agencies, but they're very consistent. I think you guys do a good job about making people feel a part of something, not that they're just at home having payroll ran by this third-party company for their job. And that's one of the big things there.
I think when I look at the kind of stuff that you guys do, it's really about strategy and setting yourselves up for growth and efficiencies, right? And part of that is staff. But it's easy to just say staff, but there's a lot to it to make that staff have quality and and quantity, and to supervise that and to even know what that looks like. You don't know how many conversations we have with law firms where we'll tell them, it's like, listen, Joey's not producing. He's not doing the kind of work he should be doing. We got to let him go. We want to replace him. And the law firm client will say, no, Joey's so nice. And his grandmother's sick. And well, let's give him another chance. Like that same client, 6 months later is going to call you and say, I'm going bankrupt. And we have to tell her, we need to let him go. We need to replace him. This is your money. This is your quality. It's not okay. And don't worry about Joey. Maybe Joey's okay. Maybe Joey's being asked to do the wrong thing, We'll bring him back to the bench. We're going to retrain him. There, he has good attributes, but he's not the right fit for where you put him. And
And that's
yeah,
a good point. I mean, obviously, when you're staffing, it's really easy to kind of put people into a box thinking, hey, I need this checklist of items taken care of for my company, which you have to do a little bit. But the other part of it too, though, they just got to see like kind of where people are, what their skills are, what their unique abilities are, and also their potential too. So I think that happens a lot. You staff someone and you realize they might not think they're a numbers person by trade, but they realize that, oh yeah, like this person's great at like accounting and collecting money. They're very organized, but they just kind of had that natural propensity and didn't need.
we've had paralegals that have come in that have been asked to do a little bit of marketing work, and people that have been lawyering their whole lives all of a sudden realize that they love marketing, and they start doing marketing roles, and it's wonderful. They kind of find this new thing that they had never done before and are really good at it. So that is the benefit of working for kind of the small company, because you have to wear many hats, right? And lawyers have to wear many hats. And so, like we were talking about before we started the interview, I see lawyers sometimes like a captain for an airline, and they were asked to fly very complicated planes with many dials and all sorts of things, and they're incredibly good at flying this, 777 or Dreamliner, something that not a lot of people can do. But then you ask that same person to run a company. It's like, okay, now you have to run American Airlines or even a small charter company. Like, they don't know how much fuel costs and how much it costs for the hangar and the mechanics that do the work. Like, they just know how to fly a plane. They just know the law, it's almost like philosophy, right? And now you're asking this person to do this other thing, and it's hard. It's hard. And that's why there's companies like yours and ours that are here to try to help them. I think, when we think about what's the hardest thing for small business owners to do is to let go and let other experts do the work, whether it's you or us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. I mean, a lot of business owners, myself included, you kind of turn into a control freak a little bit. Yeah, you want stuff to go a certain way. Like one of the iPad winners from the AILA conference. So the third iPad winner from the AILA conference, we have to give away at all the events. They didn't respond. So I did another drawing after I told the person, hey, if you don't get back to us, we're going to pick someone else. Long story short, she happens to live 30 minutes away. We met, gave her the iPad. We had coffee and we're talking. She's a small solo firm. Nothing wrong with what she's doing. She's kind of meeting the vision she has for the firm. But that's what she's talking about, hiring staff. It's like, oh, I'm kind of a control freak. I don't necessarily trust people. But the thing, though, that kind of tells me is you don't have a structure for someone to follow. Like, you hired someone, and like you said, you have to put together SOPs. They have to know what to do, how to onboard a client, what steps to take, not just have these ambiguous terms of, hey, go do customer service for me. What does that entail? Like, does it entail calling someone every month? Does it entail onboarding clients? Are you more kind of like an assistant at the paralegal that fields communication? But that's where I think a lot of companies like ours come in, is we can actually define what that is and how someone can succeed. And, a lot of those things there. But that's good. I guess as this interview comes to a close, Demetrio, we're certainly glad to have you on here. If anyone needs any help with anything, feel free to reach out to Stafi. They have a great front-end service for immigration law firms, but also you're providing a support system for people too. And also your paralegal service too, like you're doing immigration outsourcing. You have attorneys that review the work, so it's a very good thing. But while we close out, why don't you talk about that? Because that's something we make a lot of referrals for to different agencies. I'd love to learn about it.
So the outsourcing service for case outsourcing for immigration law firms encompasses the whole thing. So the law firm just has to give us the name of the person, the kind of case we're working, and we're going to do the whole thing. So we're going to collect all the documents. We're going to have all the conversations in your behalf. We're going to put the package together, and we're going to deliver it back to you for final review. We have had very few times where the law firm says, hey, I need you to work on this. But we have writers, we have researchers, we have the whole gamut. And I think in some cases, the legal work is not the hardest part. I think the hardest part is getting the end user to comply. Like, where is your birth certificate, sir? Like, we can't finish the case without it. And because we work 24/7, and a lot of people, they work 9 to 5, they're not available. You can't ask them for these documents or to fill out these forms in the middle of the day. You have to do that at night on weekends, and we're able to do that. And so it really accelerates the process. And what we're seeing is we're charging like 20% of what the law firm charges roughly. So like Most of our outsourcing for humanitarian and for family base is like between $800 to $1,000. So it's very inexpensive, and it can really give some time free back to the law firm to do a little bit more networking and talk to other lawyers and be more on the sales side of things and just let us do the work.
Yeah. That's something I realize like talking to lawyers is they feel so alone in their work just because everything's so dependent on them. And they're so skittish about outsourcing, thinking that their papers are going to get handed to this. At the end of the day, it's about producing a good packet. It's kind of that, and whatever helps you get to a good end goal is that. But if anyone on is watching this is looking for help with any of these items, feel free to reach out to Stafi, Stafi. Getstafi.com is, I believe, the website. So, Demetrio, it's great having you on here. I'll cut off the recording. Thank you very much.
Thank you.